Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Future Force, please subscribe and like my videos. Today we are diving into one of the most dramatic and complex political crises shaking the heart of Eastern Europe, the battle between Russian President Vladimir Putin and Belarusian leader Alexander Lukashenko, triggered by a shocking mutiny inside Belarus that has unleashed protests everywhere. This story is not just about two powerful leaders, but about fragile alliances, betrayals within the system, and ordinary people rising to challenge the power structures that once looked unshakable. To really understand what is going on, we will look at the whole situation as if it were a powerful machine, examining its exterior, interior, performance, safety features, unique selling points, the price being paid, and finally, drawing a conclusion about what this all means for the region and the world. The exterior of this crisis is what the world immediately sees. On the outside, Belarus has always appeared as one of Russia's most loyal allies, a partner state that relies heavily on Moscow for financial aid, military backing, and political cover on the international stage. For decades, Lukashenko positioned himself as the iron-fisted leader who could maintain order while being a reliable partner for Putin. But now, what the world is seeing from the outside is chaos, instability, and fire. In the streets of Minsk and other cities, crowds of angry citizens are holding massive rallies, waving opposition flags, chanting for change, and demanding an end to Lukashenko's rule. International media captures images of burning barricades, riot police clashing with young protesters, and soldiers patrolling nervous city streets. From the Kremlin's exterior point of view, this looks like a nightmare. Russia needs Belarus as a buffer state against NATO, as an ally in the Ukraine conflict, and as a symbol of Moscow's ability to keep its neighbors in line. But what everyone is seeing right now is a partnership unraveling, and the once solid exterior image of stability now appears cracked and weak. Inside Belarus, however, the interior tells an even more gripping story. Lukashenko has maintained his rule for nearly 3 decades by building a tightly controlled political machine. He relied on the KGB, police, and army to crush opposition. He used propaganda to shape public opinion, offering promises of stability and security in exchange for obedience. He ensured that his allies were rewarded with money, positions, and power. But the mutiny that triggered this crisis came from within. Reports emerged that parts of his military and security forces were no longer willing to follow his orders blindly. Some officers refused to fire on protesters. Others began leaking information to opposition groups. A shadowy network of insiders who had once been fiercely loyal began plotting behind the scenes. The interior reveals a regime no longer united, a government divided, and a leader who can no longer fully trust his own men. For Putin, the interior is equally troubling. Russia's entire strategic posture relies on Belarus remaining firmly in Moscow's orbit. The Kremlin has deep intelligence operations inside Belarus, a network of economic levers such as energy supply control, and military assets stationed on Belarusian territory. But with Lukashenko weakened, Putin faces a dangerous dilemma. Should he step in with force to save his ally, or should he let the situation unfold and risk losing Belarus altogether? The interior is where betrayal, mistrust, and desperation play out daily, shaping decisions that will determine the future of both nations. When analyzing the performance of both leaders under this intense pressure, it becomes clear that cracks are widening. Lukashenko's performance has become inconsistent and panicked. He makes fiery speeches promising to crush the protests with iron fists, then quietly negotiates with minor opposition figures in an attempt to buy time. He arrests journalists and activists, but then releases a few prisoners when international backlash grows too strong. His once confident posture of the unshakable strongman is now replaced by nervous hesitations. Putin's performance, in contrast, is more controlled but equally strained. He has built his image as a leader who never loses, a figure of dominance who always projects strength. But in this case, his options are all risky. If he intervenes directly with Russian troops or security forces, he risks dragging Russia into another costly conflict while it is already bogged down in Ukraine. If he stands back and Lukashenko falls, it will signal weakness, showing that Moscow cannot even protect its closest ally. His performance is about maintaining the balance between projecting power and avoiding further overextension, yet the cracks are visible. Even Russian citizens are beginning to question why their country is constantly sacrificing resources to defend unpopular dictators abroad instead of focusing on domestic needs. The performance of both leaders shows that while they may be experienced, they are also cornered, and cornered leaders often make the most dangerous moves. Every system has safety features, mechanisms designed to protect against collapse. For Lukashenko, these safety features are the security services, the riot police, and the loyal elements of the army who still obey his orders. He has fortified government buildings, deployed armored vehicles across major cities, and expanded surveillance networks to monitor opposition groups. He tries to cut off communication channels, block social media, and control the flow of information, but these safety features are breaking down. Protesters have learned to bypass restrictions with encrypted apps. Underground networks keep spreading information despite internet blackouts. The loyalty of his soldiers is no longer guaranteed. For Putin, the safety features are broader and more sophisticated. He has deep intelligence infiltration in Belarus, giving him eyes and ears inside Lukashenko's government. He controls economic lifelines such as gas supplies, which he can adjust as leverage. He maintains loyal elites in Belarus who are financially tied to Moscow. These safety features allow Putin to manipulate the situation quietly from behind the scenes. Yet even these systems are fragile. The larger and more determined the protests become, the harder it is to suppress them with propaganda, intimidation, or financial leverage alone. Safety features designed for smaller crises are being pushed to the breaking point by this massive uprising. Unique selling points are what leaders use to justify their power. Lukashenko's main selling point has always been stability. For decades, he told the Belarusian people that without him, the country would collapse into chaos. He portrayed himself as the father of the nation, the only one capable of holding everything together. This message worked for older generations who remembered the instability of the early post-Soviet years. But now, as protests rage and chaos spreads under his rule, that message has collapsed. He can no longer argue that he brings stability when the country is burning under his leadership. Putin's unique selling point is strength and protection. He has built his image around the idea that only he can defend Russia and its allies against Western influence. He positions himself as the shield against NATO, the West, and internal collapse. Yet the more force he uses to maintain this image, the more isolated and weakened Russia becomes internationally. Allies start to see dependence on Russia as a trap, not a benefit. These selling points are losing their value in a world where younger generations want freedom, prosperity, and dignity. Not just empty promises of stability and protection, but what is the price of all this? The price is enormous, and it is being paid daily by ordinary people. For Belarusians, the price is blood spilled in the streets, imprisonment of activists, families broken apart, and freedoms stripped away. Workers lose their jobs for joining protests. Students are expelled from universities. Families live in fear that loved ones will be arrested in the night. The economy is collapsing under sanctions and strikes. Inflation rises while goods become scarce. The cost of survival itself grows heavier. For Lukashenko, the price is the collapse of his legacy and the erosion of his power. The longer he clings to control, the more he risks total humiliation and exile. For Putin, the price is strategic and geopolitical. He risks losing his closest ally, undermining Russia's entire regional strategy, and exposing weakness at a time when his country is already under heavy strain from sanctions and international isolation. For the region, the price is instability, uncertainty, and the danger of wider conflict spilling across borders. The bill is high, and no one seems capable of paying it without losing something essential. When all of this is put together, the conclusion becomes clear. The showdown between Putin and Lukashenko, sparked by the Belarusian mutiny and fueled by spreading protests, is more than a battle of personalities. It is a battle between the old systems of authoritarian control and the new demands of a population that refuses to live in silence any longer. The exterior shows chaos on the streets. The interior reveals betrayal and division. The performance of both leaders shows cracks in their once invincible images. The safety features designed to protect them are breaking under pressure. The unique selling points they relied on no longer convince anyone. And the price of their struggle is being paid in blood, fear, and instability. History has shown that authoritarian regimes often appear strong until suddenly they are not. What we are witnessing may be the slow unraveling of one such system, and the consequences will echo far beyond Belarus. For Putin, the lesson is clear. Even the closest allies cannot be controlled forever, and even the strongest leaders cannot suppress a determined people indefinitely. For Lukashenko, the clock is ticking, and the more desperately he clings to power, the harder his eventual fall will be. For the Belarusian people, this is a historic moment, one where courage and sacrifice may finally open the door to change. What happens next in Belarus will shape the future not only of that nation, but also of Russia, Eastern Europe, and the global balance of power. Stay with us here on Future Force as we continue to track this unfolding story. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video to keep up with the latest updates, because what we are witnessing is history in the making. A clash between old power and new hope, between control and freedom, between the collapsing shadows of authoritarianism and the rising light of people determined to reclaim their future.